And you have tuned in to another episode of And Then We Win. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I'm featuring Mike Wilhoite, who's a former NFL linebacker. He played for the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers of the San Francisco. And he has served as a coach in various different capacities for the Saints, the Chargers, and most recently the Denver Broncos. And so it was a pleasure and an honor to have him on this show. And this one definitely hit very close to home as we are talking about a topic that is very important and not often addressed. We've had a coach on here, Coach Davis, and we actually had a former volleyball player, future Dr. Talia Robinson, and this is the culmination of those two episodes almost kind of packed into one. And the reason why I say that is because we talk about the player-coach dynamic. And so that relationship is very unique as a lot of development occurs and when there's a healthy relationship between the player and the coach. I truly do believe, and hopefully do some research one day, that when that player-coach dynamic is very healthy, then you're looking at retention rates happening with the players and their teams. Because you want to be in a place where you feel like you're developing, you feel like you're nurtured, taken care of, and somebody's actually looking out for your well-being in the game itself. And so we hit that topic, and it was very important. I don't know, I took a lot away from this conversation. And the reason being because you can tell when you hear Mike's voice, you understand that his love and joy for harnessing that relationship. And so I really hope you enjoy this conversation that we had with me, Kobe Jones, who was here with us this episode, and Mike, who gave away a good bit of his time to have a little conversation about something that's very important. And I hope you enjoy. And please make sure that you share this episode, with anybody that you may know. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to stop rambling. But I must say that, yes, I do have a Yankees hat on. I have to mention this because we have had several guests who have expressed their love for the Boston Red Sox in previous episodes and future upcoming episodes. They got their hat on and everything. So I don't know if they were like, hey, I feel like you're a Yankees fan, I got to wear my hat. But maybe they had love for their team as much. So I'm wearing this hat to make sure that I can bring a winning attitude, atmosphere of a championship type caliber attitude to this episode. And so I'm sorry, Boston Red Sox fans. You're great. Love you all to death. But I had to wear the hat. So I'm done talking. Let's get into the episode. All right. And we're back for another episode of And Then We Win. This is your host, Justin Singleton. Our co-host is back, Kobe Jones. She's been missing for a while, but she's finally back. Glad to have her in this space. And so, of course, we'll have our Kobe's 3. And then we also have a very special guest, Michael Wilhoite, here with us on this great day. He is he's pretty much his whole story is about adversity, former NFL player and coach as well. And we're happy to have him here today because we're going to talk about something very special that we feel like is very critical to overall development of the player, because more than likely, when you're a player, you have to have a coach. And so that player-coach dynamic is very important, not only just for, the outcomes on the field, but off the field. So Michael, we're glad to have you here today to talk about something that's very important to not only the work of social work, because, human relationships are important, but just for overall development. So thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. Honored to be here and excited to share the knowledge that I have.
And you have a lot because you literally have the story. We talk about Drake started from the bottom. Now we're here. I mean, you come a long ways when it comes to, being an athlete and getting it to the highest level. So one thing, adversity is a story, is part of your character. But when we talk about from one thing that has been consistent is probably a coach in your life. And so think about why is it important for that player-coach relationship is essential for growth for both parties. I mean, you've been the athlete and the coach. So most importantly, why is that relationship very important towards development?
Trust, belief in one another. I think as a coach, one of the things that I have to have from my players is trust. They have to believe that I have their best interest at heart, that what I'm teaching them is the right thing. Not everything you teach to a player is going to be something they've done before, something they've heard before, or something they enjoy doing. But at the end of
Mhm.
the day, they have to believe that what you're doing is truly in the best interest of them. And I think you spoke on it. You said that there's growth between coach and player. One of the things that I always said to my players was the power of I don't know is immense. And you have to
Mhm.
be able to say that. You can't be a coach that knows everything and that has the answers to everything. I don't believe in that. I believe in if I don't know something, saying I don't know. I will go figure it out. I will go learn. I will go research. I will go ask questions. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything and I have all the answers. I'm going to go find out and research and then come back. But that, and again, is with the mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes to gain your trust and to let you know that I'm willing to put in the work. The same sacrifices I expect you to make, I'm going to make in order to be the best I can be so that I can serve you in the best way possible.
Yeah, I can imagine that takes a lot because, when you're at certain levels, you believe that I mean, it's human. Like we know it all, especially when like you want nobody telling you what, you do and don't know because it's almost a sense of shame a little bit. And so, just thinking about like how do you incorporate a culture where it's okay to say that you don't know? Um, because I'm pretty sure it's a reflective, like not only do you have to say it, but the athletes have to say it too. So there's got to be a type of reflection there at least.
Of its ego. We're
Mm,
driven by ego, especially as coaches, because, like you said, we are trained and thought of as the people that are supposed to have all the answers. But at
mm-hmm,
the end of the day, no human has all the answers. That's just not life. None of us are
mm-hmm,
perfect, so none of us have all the answers. And so I think in order to create that culture, the leader of the room, is usually the coach and whomever the senior leader of the room is, in terms of the player, you two have to be willing to remove the ego from the room and one, find things that you don't know. Not
mm-hmm.
always talk about things and find things that we do know, right? That's easy. That doesn't expand the mind. That doesn't make me reach to get any better. That doesn't benefit us at all times. But I think something that always benefits us is something that is change and something that makes us have to expand our minds, something that creates a different level of thought. And I think another way to do it in the room is to involve everybody in every conversation, not to
Mm,
be the person standing up at the front of the room just talking at them the entire meeting or the entire class, but instead, hey, involve everybody, gain others' opinions, gain other points of view and perspectives that create those thoughts. And then now maybe somebody's saying something that I haven't thought of or that he hasn't thought of. And now we're creating a different level of conversation.
So you touch on some very important factors that are crucial for an authentic relationship between the player and the coach. You talk about, hopefully dying of the ego and making sure that there's trust there. But what are some other factors you think are very important for an authentic relationship to happen between the player and the coach?
I think the first thing is you have to get to know the person. You have to get to know not the football player, not the athlete, but the person. Ask questions about them. I think one of the things that I always try to focus on was doing daily check ins where we come in the meeting. And one of the things I always did was I went over a quote. I always had a quote of the week. And
Hmm.
so each day, that would be the first thing that was on the board when they come in and we talk about that quote. And each day, there may be a different perspective on the quote. There may be different things said about the quote. But instead of just going straight to athlete or sport, we're getting to know the person and we're getting to talk about some of the things that drive them, some of the things that are holding them back, some of the things that are creating resistance. But I think first and foremost, you have to create a relationship and get to know people before you can expect people to just give you everything they have and be vulnerable, right? That vulnerability
Hmm.
creates connections. And we want to be, right? We say in coaching and sport that we're like a family, we're a family. Well, in order to be a family, you have to be able to connect with people. In order to connect with people and within family, you have to be able to be vulnerable. And so I think those things are things that I always stood on and things that I always try to make a point of, right? Taking my guys out to eat, right? When I got to LA, I texted every guy in my group and said, hey, let's go out to eat. Let's get dinner. Same
Hmm.
thing in Denver. And I think now some guys are going to be willing to do that. Some guys aren't. You can't force it. You don't want to force it on them, but you want to create that avenue of communication, vulnerability so that those connections can be created.
Now, most families, they have their ups and downs. Sometimes you got that cousin that's like, okay, I can't talk for you a while. You try to, have a little shift or whatnot. We're not talking about like cousins off of soul food or anything like that. But, just thinking about the dynamics, because, there are times where relationships can get tense. And sometimes they may sever, sometimes they may come back. And so when you have those moments when you're talking about, your players, when things get a little rocky, what are ways that can those relationships be fixed, and how do you fix them when things are getting rocky? Especially like we've been on a professional level, and there's so many other factors that come into play there. And so just think about like what are the if you had the golden ticket or the golden answer, what's the best way to support those relationships after it's been a little rocky and some tension in between the player and the coach?
Most of all, you have to love people. You have to be willing to accept people for who they are, where they've come from, their experiences. I think that we're all created, and the people that we are today are based on the experience that we've had, the lessons we've learned. And so you have to be willing to understand and accept whomever that is and what they've been through. And you have to be willing to ask questions. Again, you can't, from my point of view, I can't talk at people, give them orders, tell them this is the way it's going to be. No, I have to ask questions. What is best for you? How best can I communicate with you? Right? If a player is always late and can't be on time, how can I best help you to be here on time?
Mhm.
What do I need to send you text messages, reminders? Do I need to call you in the morning? How can I best serve you? One of the things I always tell my guys is I am here to service you. I am not here to service me or to toot my own horn or find a way to become better on a higher level. My job is to serve you and be the best I can for you. And so I think most of all, when these relationships are severed or and I was saying so far in my experience, I've never had any severed relationships. For the most
Mhm.
part, my relationships have truly there have been some rocky ones, but let's go out to eat. Let's figure out a time where you and I can talk away from all of this and just get on the same page. Help me understand where you've been and what you've come from and the things that you are thinking. Tell me the things that I'm doing that you don't agree with, that you
Mhm.
may think are wrong or that I could do better. And help me as a coach, like I said before in the first answer, I have to grow too. I can't remain the same. If I am in the room thinking that I know everything, then yeah, you're gonna create some strong opinions versus each other instead of, hey, I'm growing with you. I'm learning just as well as you're learning. And so I think at the most part, the most important part is continuing to communicate, ask questions, and learn about the person. Love the person, accept the person from whoever they are and where they've come from and their experiences they've been through.
That's awesome. Sounds like you have the idea, the importance of treating people like a human being. I don't care what the adjectives before them. Most important, like you are a human first, and you take care of them. Sounds like you like to eat too. So if you ever want to, take me out to dinner, I can be on your team. I can be an assistant to the assistant. Something I like Wagyu steak, so I need to find a way to get on your bad side so you can take me out to eat because I love good steak. But just thinking another part of that's important when we talk about this lifestyle of being an athlete. We talk about transition. And so I know that you had to transition to quite a few times in your life from being a player, straight out of D2 school, not knowing what's going to happen when they had the NFL lockdown to actually getting picked up by the 49ers or the UFL and then the 49ers. A lot of transitions happen. And thinking about your experience, what do you feel like is essential that players or even a coach needs when it comes to transitioning from one area to another? Because there's always something that I feel like you gotta leave behind or level up in order to transition to your next level. And so with your experiences, what do you feel like are important factors or essential needs for people to feel prepared to transition to the next level?
I would say strong support group, whether that's parental units.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, maybe it's mentors, older brothers, good friends, people that have been through things that you're going to go through,
Mhm.
people that you can call on, right? I'm going through this. I have questions. I don't understand this. I'm feeling these certain type of feelings. Who can I call on that's going to be honest with me? That's not going to tell me just what I want to hear, but is also going to tell me the truth
Mhm.
and is going to be real with me. I think you got to have empathy. You got to have forgiveness. One thing I always tell my players in training camp, right? Like you said, they're in that transition phase. They've OTAs, training camp. They just got there. They're rookies and they're hard on themselves. They have a lot of expectations. They think that they should be this and that. And I did all of this in college and I did all of this in high school, but now I'm here and you got to have grace. You got to have forgiveness for yourself and empathy. You have to be able to remove the ego once again and understand that it's all a learning process. You know, one thing I always say is it's not about being better than the other person. It's about getting better each day. It's not about being perfect. It's about improvement. And as long as we're improving each day, that's good. As long as we're not making the same mistake 2 and 3 times, we can keep going. We're improving. I think clarity is a big part of it. I think that's a big thing for a coach. Like for me, clarity is something that I have to provide my players. Simplicity. Everything that I say can't be of the most confusing and high intellect and it's so complex. No, simplify that, clarify that. You know, and I think as a young man, as a young woman, as a young person that is continuing to grow, something my mom always said to me growing up was never be afraid to ask questions.
Mhm.
Know that there's no bad questions and to ask questions because we all are we get in the room with all these guys and all these expectations and we think we're supposed to know something and we don't know what we don't know, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So I think that strong support group, whoever that is,
Mhm.
mentors, parental guidance, brothers, sisters, elders that have been through what you've been through. I think empathy, forgiveness, and then I think the ability and the willingness to ask questions.
That's great. When you mentioned something about like making it easy for people, I was just thinking about. I saw a clip the other day of John Gruden calling out plays. I'm just like, life doesn't have to be like that, you know. And I'm like, gosh, how does he make up these play names? But just like he keeps going on and on and on. And so that's very important, like making it simplistic because it's so many other pressures that exist on an individual. So, like, why do we have to make it even more challenging than it needs to be when they have so much going on? So I'm glad you covered that. I think that's something we all tend to forget sometimes when we start to level up. It's like, hey, let's dial it back some just a little bit. Think about the not the bare minimum, but the foundation that makes things a little bit easier for you in order to get to that next level.
Yeah, and I think the game at the highest levels played so fast in
Mm-hmm.
every sport. And if there's thought involved, you're just slowing yourself down and slowing the game down. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, how can I teach my players to do everything one way that's going to suit them for everything the offense or defense can do? So now there's no thought involved. I
Mm-hmm.
always say, I want to create instincts. So we're going to do this so many times and we're going to do this the same way to where now there's no thought. You're playing on straight instincts. And
Mm-hmm.
then my dad preached it to me and I preach it to my players. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have great instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your instincts. Trust what you see. If you play fast off of what you see and you trust it, we can correct the rest. But if you don't play fast and you're thinking and you're hesitating and you're slowing down, it's hard to change that. It's hard to correct that. You know, so to me, you have to simplify and allow these guys to go fast and play on instincts. Otherwise, once you slow them down, if you've created so much thought, now I'm not seeing through my eyes, right? I'm not seeing what's in front of me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what's in here. And so I try to eliminate that so that I can see clearly through my eyes and play off of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. You know, and I would say, one thing I didn't mention, and I would say, and I think nowadays gets lost is work ethic.
Mm.
Like you still have to go to work. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we forget that, right? Even in mental health and substance abuse and all these things, we want these magic pills or these answers that just everything goes away and we have all the answers and I'm good now. And that's just not how it works. And at the end of the day, you still have to show up and be willing to put in work, and enough work to where even if you're not outworking the other man, the work you're putting in is smarter and more efficient than the other man. And then if you want to just make sure everything's good, then yeah, put in more work than the other man.
Oh, this is why I hate talking to coaches. Y'all have me ready to rev up and just like tackle something right now. But that is so important because you're right. Like we have gotten to a point where it is like a microwave society. Like we want something to happen within 20 seconds or less, and it may work for the moment. But like if you want like long term results, you have to put in long time work for it to make it
Yes, sir.
happen. And if you don't, then like, yeah, okay, you'll get a brief moment like, oh, I feel good now. But when it comes back up again, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 days from now, like, do you have the tools in your box to create a solution that, okay, I know how to address it because it'll never go away, but can you handle it when you have onset? And so I think that's a very important when we talk about the mental health and like, okay, you're playing off of instinct because you've done the repetition for so many times, you had that experience, you know what to do when it happens. Like your nervous system's like, okay, I know what to do when I see this. It's not even the second nature. And it is fast. I was just thinking about a story. My brother, he walked on at Clemson University back in like the mid '90s or whatnot. And this is when they played Torrey Holt in North Carolina State. And he was just like, he had never seen a game move so fast in his life because of all the pieces that are happening. He was just like, you have to just move. It has to happen. If not, then you'll get burnt. And which they did. Torrey Holt killed him that game. I'll never forget it. I was like, okay, this guy is the truth, at that time frame. But
Yeah.
that's what happens. Like everything moves at a faster pace. Even like with mental health, it's just like, okay, I have to work at it so I can move
Yeah.
at that pace too. Because if not, then you get left behind. And so,
Right.
gosh, I never would have made that correlation. It makes sense. It does, but that's just the way it is. And thank you for sharing that. Kobe, we'll go ahead and get you Kobe 3. You haven't been here in a while, so we want to go ahead and make sure you have an opportunity to ask your questions from a student perspective that may have, like, you know what, this is what we're thinking about. And I want to ask.
All right. Okay, so my segment, Kobe's Corner 3, it's just like 3 hot questions that I think of. I'm like, all right, these need to be answered. So with the first one, during your time in the NFL, how did you manage the mental pressure of competing at like the highest level?
To be honest, when I look back and I'm hard on myself, I don't think I handled it great back then. I used different things that caused, I would say, numbing, that were distractions. And it's one of the reasons I became a coach, was to become that person that could tell my players that, hey, don't go down this road. Now, some of those distractions were good, right? Those were the work ethic, was
Mhm.
staying in the weight room all the time, running nonstop, the way I ate, the way I slept. And it was so much focus on those things that I didn't have to think about the pressure or the anxiety of the game. Was instead, I'm going to just focus on the process. So, I don't want to say that everything was bad and do that, but I do say that there were some good things. And, even me as a coach now, that's what I preach to my players, is don't fall in love with the result. Fall in love with the process. And for me, I would say when I first transitioned into the NFL, and going back to what you asked, Justin, was I had a strong foundation in God at that time. I had just formed a relationship with him. And so I was spending a lot of time in the word. I was doing a 1-year Bible mission. So I was doing that. And so I was spending a lot of time coming from practice and film room home to now I'm listening to Proverbs 1 and I'm reading Psalms this and Job, and I'm really spending time in the word and really getting that foundation, that strong foundation underneath me that I needed. So I think for me, that was what I used, and I wish I had like this magic answer, but it was truly, I fell in love with the process of just the work. And then I really spent time with God in prayer and in the word at that time. And I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm this perfect religious godly human being. No, I fell off many times and have gotten back on. But that was one of those times that it truly propelled me because I was so deep within it at the beginning of my career.
That's a deep answer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then for my second one, so football culture often emphasizes toughness and emotional control. How did the expectations around like masculinity affect the way you handle stress or like emotional struggles?
How you doing? I'm good. What's going on with you?
Hmm.
Nothing. I'm good. That, right? So everything is, I'm good. Everything is, you just move on to the next thing. I'm going to just keep pushing. We just keep pushing. And then you never explore the things that are actually going on inside you. When I first got in the NFL, I had a coach tell me that you should always be smiling. And whenever a coach or somebody sees you, you should be upbeat and excited and happy. And that sounds good, right? That sounds good. And you like that. And as a coach and as a player, you want to be around people that are excited and happy, but that's not reality. That's not us as humans. And then because I'm supposed to be good, I got to keep pushing because I have all of these people behind me that are putting me on a pedestal because I'm looking for a promotion. I'm looking for an accolade. I'm focused on ego now instead of focused on what's really going on inside, what the reality of how I feel is. And those become heavy burdens. And by mid-season, you're so weighed down, and now you're riding a wave, a roller coaster of wins and losses, good and bad. Are people talking good about me? Are people talking bad about me? And in this day and age, when I got in the league, Instagram and Twitter were just coming alive.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see my players, I go in the locker room after the game to tell them good game or whatnot, and they're on Twitter immediately. And they're looking at all the things that are being said about them. And so instead of using your time to push forward and look at the results and ask the questions of who is saying what, you truly have to go deeper than that. And that was the issue for me, I think, was just with the masculinity and the toughness and the man, I can do anything and I'm not scared of nothing and I'm invincible is that now the ego is just continuing to grow and the focus isn't on who you are. The focus is in your identity and what you're doing and what you're accomplishing and what you're not accomplishing.
And then for my final question, what advice would you give to athletes who are preparing for life after football?
Get to know yourself. Truly get to know yourself. I'll say I didn't do it till I haven't done it till the past year, right? And I coached for the last 6 years. And, I even had a coach that always say, know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't take that time. I just moved straight into coaching and I never sat down and wrote down and thought about what are my core values? What is my why? How come I want to work out every day? What is it that brings me? What kind of peace does that bring me? What moves me? Not what pays me the most. What moves me? What do I love to do without getting paid? And then go do it in a way that will pay me. But first, what moves me? So I think truly getting to know yourself and understand you, what emotions, what traumas have you been through? Who is your support group? Who are the people that are going to be with you, whether you win, lose, or draw? Who are the people that'll be honest with you and not tell you what you want to hear? And so for me, I would say it took me a long time to get there, and it takes a lot of people a long time to get there. But for me, what I've learned over the past year in my life, now that all the distractions are removed, now that all the masks are removed, is I get to know me truly now. And I can recognize the feelings, the emotions that come up. And now instead of living on an emotional roller coaster, I can live in awareness and I can feel those emotions move through. Instead of feeling them come on to me, okay, I'm gonna go find a mask, I'm gonna go find a distraction. No, I have to deal with those. but it takes the time to know yourself to see those and to feel those happen.
Thank you.
All
That's
right,
right.
Kobe, hitting all three from the corner. Greatly appreciate that. I don't know, Mike, I feel like you definitely gave a word today. I feel even more inspired myself after talking to you. But, before we end this episode, we asked everybody the same exact question. We get a different answer every time. And it's the theme of the show. We talk about, and then we win. And so, like, our show focuses on what does anybody feel like is critical before we talk about the win, and either be on the field or off the field. So, Mike, would love to have your input on, like, what do you think is important before we even talk about the win?
I would say, if I put it in one word, I would say love. And from the perspective of people, the work, whatever that is, right? Before you win, you have to love whatever you're doing. Before you win, you got to love whomever you're doing it with. You have to be willing to accept those people for whom they are. Before you win, you have to, I think, fall in love with the process, whatever that is. And so if I put it into one word, I would say love. And that's been my thing, as of late, just in everything I do. I think what comes with love is forgiveness. So in order to win, usually we have to lose. We have to fail before we enjoy success. And in order to get over those losses and over those failures, you have to be willing to forgive yourself, the game that you played in, the opponent. And in order to forgive, you have to love. I think those go hand in hand. And so I would say love. And for me, when I look at my career, I love to compete. I loved football. I loved my teammates. I would say the only person I didn't love at the time might have been myself. And that's the thing that I've learned to do. And I'm still growing and learning to do. But I think before you win, you have to be able to love.
Oh, that's great. And I saw that you love to compete. I heard you like try to get the most tips at Red Lobster when you were working there back in the day. So apparently you just like, this guy's a competitor. He competes against everything. Yeah,
You
I hate
did
to
some
put you
real
around my
research.
Yeah, I've been doing my research. I would hate to have you around my father because he like to compete too. So y'all will be at it at everything. Michael, I can't thank you enough for taking time out today to really sharing some very positive words and affirmations, and just really let us know, like, love is the key. We think about a lot of things, but I know what hit me the most is like, don't fall in love with the results. I think oftentimes we think about the end, and so we see the end, but we'll understand like how important it is to get what it takes to get there. And so if you don't love the thing in between, which is yourself in the process, you're really not going far. And you'll probably end up doing something else. But then most importantly, you're not going to win at what you really want to achieve at winning. So I don't know, this is good food for me and my soul for today, if nobody else. And so Mike, I do thank you for being here. And I can't thank you enough. I don't want to get blabbering, but thanks for being here. And this is another episode of Then We Win. Appreciate you, Michael.
I appreciate you, Justin, Kobe. Thank you for having me on. This is an honor. Again, I love talking about this. I think that there's so much that our society is learning and growing with this, but I think there's so much more room to grow. And I love that you guys are putting the message out there and continuing to attack this and talk about, the mental health part of sport and life. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I feel honored.
Awesome. And if you ever want to come back, just come on back. We don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in to And Then We Win. My name is Dr. Justin Singleton, and I'm a sports social worker. I love what I do. And if you're interested in learning how I can best support your athlete, your parent group, or even the team, please feel free to reach out to me at info@justsinglevision.com. That is info@justsinglevision.com. Feel free to contact me for a free 30-minute consultation so we can figure out how we can best support the mind, vision, and action of your athletes. Thank you and take care.